Chapter 20. Drago stepped back into the rooms that Carly and he had been given. Their quarters consisted of 3 rooms. They were as large as his living room back home. The sitting room was elegantly furnished with several large chairs, an oversized couch, a massive fireplace, and rich tapestries depicting different events throughout the pirates' history. 2 sets of double doors led out onto a curved, covered balcony that overlooked the town and harbor. The other 2 rooms were decorated with the same lavish touch. The finest silk sheets, soft down bedspread, and thick curtains around the massive 4-poster bed caused Carly to swear she was the princess in a fairy tale. "Nay, a queen, at least, my lady," Asher had exclaimed. The Pirate King had quickly excused himself after Drago growled out yet another warning when he tried to kiss Carly's hand again. The devil would push Drago to a sparring match before their trip was over. Drago adjusted the sleeve of his shirt under his long coat. They were to join Asher for dinner in a few minutes. "This guy has way too much money," Carly stated, stepping out of the bedroom. Drago looked up and started to make a sarcastic retort in agreement, but the words froze on his lips. His body was suddenly humming, and the last thing on his mind was dinner with Asher. He would much rather have dinner with Carly, or rather, have Carly for dinner. "Do I look stupid?" she asked, with a raised eyebrow. Drago's gaze ran from her braided hair over her flushed cheeks and down to the tops of her creamy breasts, peeking out of the bodice of a gown that hugged her full figure to perfection. The rich, dark red gown made the golden highlights of her hair glow like the fire in the dragon's heart. His first and only thought was how much he was going to enjoy taking it off of her. "I do not remember my mother ever wearing that dress," Drago choked out. Carly laughed. "Asher had it delivered while you were talking to the guard earlier," she said, spreading the long skirt to show the pair of leggings through the front slit. "I feel like I'm ready to either go to a ball or, at the very least, the company Halloween party." A scowl creased Drago's brow at the mention of Asher sending the dress. He should have been the one to give her the gown, not that scurvy pirate. His expression changed to remorse when her smile died, and Carly's expression turned to embarrassment. "I guess I should go change into my jeans and t-shirt," she said. Drago quickly crossed the room and reached for her arm when she turned away. Sliding his left hand around her waist, he reached up and cupped her face. He brushed a kiss across her lips before giving her a rueful smile. "You look stunning. I am jealous that Asher would think to give you something so fine, while I have given you nothing but hand-me-downs from my mother," he admitted. "Oh, well, I've loved everything you've given me. It is more comfortable than wearing something with enough material to make a bedspread," she responded. "I will take you shopping for clothing tomorrow. There are many fine seamstresses here," he promised. Carly shook her head. "If I can't pay for it, I'd rather not get it. I wouldn't mind looking, but the last thing I want is to feel like I am some damsel in distress needing to be clothed. I mean, borrowing clothes is bad enough, but at least I can give those back. Buying them is another thing. At least with something like food, I can contribute by cooking," she insisted, with a stubborn thrust to her jaw. "You would allow Asher to clothe you, but not me?" Drago demanded. "Of course not. We bartered. I gave him a finger spinner and he gave me the dress," she said. "A finger spinner?" Drago asked, puzzled. "It's a toy that lights up when you spin it," she laughed. "I paid less than $10 for it. He liked it and insisted it was a fair trade. Who am I to argue with a pirate?" "You traded a toy for this?" Drago chuckled, standing back to look down at the gown. "It lights up and spins," Carly stated with a grin. Still laughing, he pulled her back into his arms. His little thief was a brilliant negotiator. It would appear he had a few things to learn from her. "You are an amazing woman, Carly Tate," he said, sliding the back of his hand down her cheek. "I'm just cute and cuddly," she replied, reaching up to slide her arms around his neck. Drago groaned softly when he felt her fingers playing with the ribbon holding his hair back. He bent his head to meet her halfway when she rose up to kiss him. Their lips were a breath away from each other when a knock sounded at the door. "Dinner," she whispered, gazing up at him. "Dinner," he grudgingly repeated. Drago reluctantly released Carly, but not before she brushed a quick kiss across his lips. He started to reach for her again when the knock resonated through the room, this time louder than the first one. Irritation flashed through Drago. It would be just like Asher to give Carly a dress that he knew Drago couldn't resist peeling off her only to interrupt him. "We are coming!" Drago snapped out in a loud voice. He strode across the room and opened the door. The scowl on his face darkened when he saw Asher's amused face gazing back at him. He curled his fingers into tight fists when he noticed Asher's appreciative expression when Carly stepped up behind him. "A barter well worth the price, my lady. May I say, you are more beautiful than any who have graced the doors of my palace. If you ever tire of this fire-breathing lump of dragon meat, you have only to cast your gaze in my direction, and I will forever be your willing servant," Asher stated, with an elaborate bow. "I swear, if you kiss her hand one more time, I'll bite off your arm," Drago threatened. Asher straightened with a laugh. "I detest blood, especially my own. Come, dinner will be ready shortly, and the others await," he said, stepping to the side. "Others?" Drago asked, with a wary glare. "Nali, Kurgan, Jem, and Isha have come to meet," Asher said in a more serious tone. Drago's gaze narrowed on the calm mask that Asher wore. Rulers or representatives from most of the kingdoms were here. Drago's stomach tightened at the meaning. The Sea Witch was up to something. "Where is Orion?" Drago asked. Asher cast him a quick, sad glance. "He is unable to attend. He lost his mate, Shamil, during childbirth, and has remained under the sea since to care for his sons. It is said he still searches for Magna as well," he explained. "Isn't Magna the Sea Witch?" Carly asked. "Yes," Asher said. Drago wrapped his arm around Carly. He was shocked to learn of Shamil's death. This would be a devastating blow to Orion and to his kingdom. "I did not know," Drago replied. "It was a shock to all," Asher agreed. Carly wasn't sure who Orion and Shamil were, but it was obvious the news of Shamil's death had shaken Drago. She quietly walked next to the men, listening to their exchange and appreciating the pirate's castle. Rich, dark wooden beams in varying shades of color, including a red that matched her gown, held large chandeliers with flickering white-blue flames. The doors were made from the same wood. Each door was intricately carved with a different scene, and in the center was a cast metal door knocker. Some were in the shape of fish, while others were in the shape of animals. The walls were covered with bright tapestries that hung from the ceiling to the floor. Instead of knights in armor standing in the hallway, there were statues carved out of marble. Only these statues moved and followed their progress. Carly scooted closer to Drago when one of the statues winked at her. "How do they do that?" she asked. Asher grinned. "A gift from the king and queen of the Isle of Magic. I saved their dog once," he said with a sheepish grin. "You stole their dog and returned it, more than likely," Drago dryly retorted. "I will never admit to such a devious action," Asher stated. Carly giggled at the snappy banter between the two men. Despite the things Drago said, it was obvious that he admired the Pirate King. She couldn't help but wave at another statue that bowed to her. She wound her arm around Drago's when he held it out, and they descended the staircase behind Asher. At the bottom, several men and women stood quietly talking. Each of them stopped and turned to stare at them as they descended the stairs. Carly blushed when all eyes turned to assess her. "Drago!" a huge man greeted with a bow of his head. "Corgan," Drago replied. "Lord Drago, on behalf of the royal family of the Isle of Magic, I wish to convey my heartfelt sorrow at the devastation to your people. The Queen also asked that I tell you she is searching all of the spellbooks known to our people for a way to reverse the spell," the young man stated with a stiff bow. "The way to break the spell is to kill the sea witch, Isha," Drago answered in a hard tone. "And I have told you that it would doom us all if you do that," a dark-skinned woman argued, stepping forward. "Nolly," Drago greeted. "I did not see your ship in the harbor." "I did not want to scare you away," she replied. Drago's expression darkened. "You know my thoughts about using the mirror," he warned. "Before we begin another war, let me introduce Drago's beautiful companion, Carly. Carly, may I introduce you to Corgan, King of the Giants," Asher said, stepping between Nolly and Drago. "Hello," Carly said. "I am Gem, from the Isle of Elements," a young woman announced, with a stiff bow of her head. Carly knew she was staring, but she couldn't help it. She glanced at the huge man who had first been introduced to her. Giant was an excellent word to describe him. The man was taller than all of them, including Drago. His features were hard, and he looked like he would rather be anywhere else but there. The young, ethereal woman who called herself Gem was a stark contrast to this man. Gem's long brown hair was floating around her, and there was a slight glow around her body. Carly swore she could almost see through the woman at times. "I am Isha, captain of the guard to the King and Queen of the Isle of Magic. The king has been unwell, and the Queen asked that I come in their stead," Isha greeted. "Hi, Isha," Carly said, trying not to feel overwhelmed. "And last, but never least, is the lovely and very dangerous Nolly, Empress of the Monsters," Asher said with a grimace when Nolly shot him a heated glance. "Trying to charm me won't work, Asher," Nolly stated. "Welcome, Carly. I am honored to meet you." "Thank you, Nolly," Carly responded. Carly was surprised when Nolly stepped forward and gave her a hug. The warmth and sincerity in the woman's eyes and posture told Carly that Nolly meant what she said. Carly gazed at the other woman for several long seconds. In that short space of time, Carly felt as if she had met a true friend, something that she had never felt since meeting Jenny. "What is going on?" Carly asked in a quiet voice, when the others started to move toward the dining room. Nolly slipped her arm through Carly's, ignoring Drago's disapproving glare. Carly fought back a giggle when Drago mouthed a curse. He was distracted by Corgan, who slapped him roughly on the shoulder. "You are the hope our world needs to conquer the darkness sweeping through it," Nolly replied. "Me? I'm just a bank teller from Yachats, Oregon. How am I supposed to fight anything?" Carly asked, in an incredulous tone. "Your presence has started a chain of events that will change our world. As long as—" Nolly's voice faded, and Carly looked at her, waiting for her to continue. A frown creased Nolly's brow, and she appeared uncertain for a moment. In frustration, Carly stopped and placed her hand on Nolly's arm. "As long as what?" she demanded. Nolly glanced toward Drago and shrugged. "As long as Drago does not kill the sea witch," she said, before pulling away. "I would be pleased if you would tell me about your world."